It's the 2nd of December. Ding dong merrily and high and all of that. Getting into the Mark Kendall's laughing at me and my Christmas spirit already. I don't normally get into the Christmas spirit about the 20th of December, so you're very lucky. So my name is Claire Bushner and I'm the Assistant Director of Digital Health and Nursing. I'm one of the senior team of Digital Health and HSCNI, and I have responsibility for digital comms, and of which Digital Dispatches is part of. And you're all very welcome this lunchtime. I know people keep their cameras off at this time because they're probably all eating their sandwiches or maybe something nicer than sandwiches. And when we get to the questions part or the discussion part at the end, it would be nice if you would turn your camera on, because it's always nicer than looking into hello darkness, my old friend, when we're trying to have a conversation. So this afternoon, the next 45 to 50 minutes, we have got Mary, Susan and Adrian who are going to talk to us about the Technical Enablement Project, which is one of the projects that comes under the umbrella of the Digital Workplace Programme. And the Digital Workplace Programme, for those of you who don't know, is a programme of a number of projects which aims to provide our HSC staff with the right tools and the right technology to do their jobs more effectively and efficiently. Today, I understand that our trio are going to concentrate their presentation on the deployment of Microsoft 365 and give us some signposting and some information about where we can go, what it's all about, and where we can go for some further skills development and training if needs be. So I am going to hand over to Mary in the first instance, and then the three of them are in charge for the next half an hour or so. And then we'll have times, if you wish to ask a question, we'll pick them up. We'll pick them up at the end in discussion. So just put them into the chat function. And just to remind everybody, you'll have seen it popping up on the screen. We do record digital dispatches so that we can put it on our YouTube channel after today's presentation for those who couldn't attend. So I will hand over to you, Mary.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you. Thank you, Claire, even. Sorry. And first of all, just introductions for the presenting team here. Mary McCluskey, I'm the Programme Manager for the TEP project. Adrian Bliss is our Technical Architect, one of our Global Admins, and Susan Lewis is the Northern Trust TEP Project Manager. So we'll just give you a quick overview. If there are any questions, as Claire said, if it will take them at the end. Some may need to be taken away if they're local trusts. They may be best directed to local trusts as well, and we'll provide a list of contact names at the end for the local trusts, so you know who your local contact is. Okay, so I'll start just with a quick overview and background to the project, and then Adrian will provide you with more details around the setup of 365 and what Microsoft Teams functionality is available now or in the future, and plans around the business integration, further integration with the 365 tenant. And then Susan will give some details of her experience, the collaboration that they've experienced and benefits they've seen in their trust, because they've progressed quite well there with Microsoft Teams, in fact very well with Microsoft Teams deployment in Northern Trust. So she's happy to share some of the benefits there with us today. So and finally then we'll, as Claire said, we'll provide some details on the training and adoption for Microsoft Teams. So first of all, by way of the background, then the project was set up, as Claire said, as part of the Digital Workplace Programme to consolidate a number of initiatives for the ongoing delivery and development of HSC digital services, expand that end user computing environment, adopting collaboration tools that support the transformation to create sustainable health and social care services, as in line with the strategy for health and wellbeing 2026, delivering together. And that's re-emphasised again in the digital strategy for health and care in Northern Ireland. So we set out then, we renewed the Microsoft as part of the project, we renewed the Microsoft agreement, resolved the technical debt in the client estate, and provided the technical capability for all staff to collaborate in a safe environment within 365. This covered 5 healthcare trusts, BSO, and the regional organisations, PHA and FBVG, and the arm's length bodies. It was done in collaboration with BSO and all the trusts. Their IT teams were involved in the design and implementation. And the close working with Microsoft was really beneficial in this project as well. We also had the benefit of working with Belfast Trust, and they were kindly shared a lot of the learning they'd had, because they had been working with 365 and using it to experience a lot of benefits throughout the COVID. They were ahead of us in the rest of the trusts and organisations, and they were very willing and shared learning with us for the project as well. So that's really a quick overview of how the project was set up, and all the key parties that input to it. And project the design delivery started back in March 21, and it's ongoing now. And Adrian's going to give you a summary of what's been delivered and what's planned over the next coming months. So I'll hand over to Adrian now, if that's okay.
Thank you. So as Mary said, we're on a bit of a journey here, and it's to implement a secure, modern workplace environment that allow our employees more increased mobility and flexibility how they connect to our services. And so you can, from this diagram, the linchpin to this whole technology is Teams. This is front and center to the whole technology that we're trying to implement. And Teams, yes, is seen as one application, which you can do calls and chats and video calls as well, but it also allows you to collaborate across different applications, and it has its own file storage locations. It also reaches out to other different applications. So you can see there's for example, forms. So we can have some sort of forms for data capture. We also have access to OneDrive for cloud storage and shared storage. And those also will give us access to SharePoint Online. All this technology is then secured as part with using conditional access policies, and these enforce many different controls and to restrict access. And one of the main controls that most people will probably see through this journey will be multi-factor authentication, and you can see that's around the outside, and that is the main mechanism of authentication to prove exactly who we all are. Usernames and passwords are an old technology to prove who we are. We need an additional level, and this is where the authentication piece comes in. Okay, go next. Okay, so what does everybody have access to at the minute is usually what we get asked quite regularly. So at this current time, you have Teams, and you can use that to meet people. So you can call them directly from team calling. You can use it as meetings for video calls as well. And that is fully integrated into your calendar, into your Outlook calendar. So Teams calls initiated one-to-one and one-to-many as well. And instantly as well, you would have the instant chat feature, which again can be one-to-one, and it also can be to a group of people. So looking forward, what are we actually going to do next year, and how are we going to improve Teams? We're basically going to give all the user base access to Teams, where they will be able to create channels, post messages, share files with each other, have access to other apps, like, for example, the Lists app and the Tasks and Planner app, so they can better plan their day-to-day and their project as well. Okay, next. So just to give a bit of metrics and scale exactly where we are. So there are 7 organizations, as Mary said, that are represented, and including the ALBs. There are 7 streams within the project as well. And as part of that, we have synchronized about 70,000 accounts across from the 7 organizations that we're looking at. We have currently migrated more than 49,000 mailboxes. And in total, those 49,000 mailboxes are using up about 69.5 terabytes of space. So we have released 69 terabytes of space from an on-premise organizations, which is unbelievable. In the last 90 days, we've had 396,000 call sessions within Teams alone. So that has been absolutely amazing to see within 90 days. We've had 25,000 active users. So that's actual internal HSC users. And also thinking about how we're going to collaborate in the future. We've had 150 external guests that are coming to our tenant and collaborating with our users. And that could be anything from quick chats, calls, and sharing files as well, I've already said. Okay, so the business integration. So we've actually just started to onboard the blood transfusion service into that. So that's now included in our count of 7. So we're in the midst of doing that at the moment. So we're just on the integration part for their identities, which is great. And now we're actually going to look into mailbox integration. So we are also going to look into, so Belfast Trust are not included in the TEP project, so they have a tenant of their own. We're actually going to look to integrate the 2 tenants together so we can have better collaboration with files and chats and within Teams as well. We're also currently running an Intune pilot. So for those who don't know what Intune is, Intune is Microsoft's version of the cloud mobile device management suite, which basically allows us to manage and maintain Windows devices, Android devices, and mobile phones and things like that. So we've got a pilot running across all trusts to evaluate if it will work for them and how it will actually work for them. Can they deploy apps? Can they deploy and control configurations of devices? And last, we are currently have a pilot running as well for a video conference integration. And this is actually allowing us to use our existing video conferencing units in our conference rooms, and how can we integrate those into Teams.
Good.
Thank you.
Now we hand over to Susan. Thank you, Susan.
And thank you, Adrian. So I've been asked to look at Microsoft Teams and specifically and around what we have been doing within the Northern Trust. So our big thing is around collaboration, obviously. One of the things that the digital strategy mentions is being able to provide effective infrastructures and solutions to help the staff do their jobs more effectively. And I do believe that Microsoft Teams is one piece of functionality that can support that. We started off by deploying what we classified as basic functionality. So that was the first bit that Adrian mentioned around one-to-one chats, group chats, meetings, and Teams calls. And feedback that I've been getting has been around easily being able to find colleagues that either within your own trust or within other organizations, being able to email them, being able to chat with them on Teams, do video calls, phone calls with them, and being able to see the status of somebody. You know, is somebody busy? Are they available to have a quick chat? One thing that we're finding is you do have to be logged into Microsoft Teams, and not everybody is at that point yet of remembering to do that in the morning. We have people sharing documents in a secure environment where they keep control of the document, and staff are just able to view it. Sometimes they're able to edit it depending on the settings that the person releases. Using the loop component in the chat, we've been able to develop agendas in a collaborative way rather than lots of emails flying back and forth. And one of the things that certainly I'm starting to notice is the reduction in emails, which for me is a big win. I suppose what we have just started doing is starting to look at deploying the Teams areas. So we're still at the beginning of that journey. We have channels And people are feeding back, you know, the fact that you can separate discussions out into different channels so that all the information is kept together in one local place with the files, with any of the chats, with the meetings, and it's all in one place. Again, reducing emails, reducing the lost email or resending emails thing that goes on, and making sure that team members are up to date with everything, because you have it there in front of your screen. If you've been off for a week, all the messages are still there. They're easy to find under the topic or the discussion that you're having. Within each channel, you've got the file structure, so similar to shared folders that you maybe have access to at the minute, but it's within Teams, it's alongside your posts and your chat, keeping all things together, and people have access, if you have invited them into your team, to the documents. The version control in the documents is automatic, so it's easy to find the latest one. It's the only one that's there, because the previous versions are kept in behind, and it's easy to access if required. You can do surveys, quick polls. Inside meetings, you can have your polls running the same way as you would have done with Zoom. A lot of the functionality that is available in Zoom is also available in Microsoft Teams. And we are starting to deploy the training for that at the minute across the trust, looking at how people use Zoom and how that can be transferred into Microsoft Teams going forward. And I suppose finally, in terms of the collaboration piece, is around the additional apps that are available within Microsoft Teams and specifically within Teams areas. So you can have action logs, issues trackers, and you've got the tasks and planner. So you can look at potentially capacity planning. You can see who's doing what, have they completed the tasks that have been assigned to them, things like that. And you can also set up dashboards so that people can see visually how everyone's getting on and what's happening within the team or the department. So I suppose those are the things we've learned about collaboration to date. And from that, I've then been talking to the different teams to look at what do they see as the benefits of Microsoft Teams, and in particular around collaboration and communication. So one of the things, and it's a very simple thing, is checking the availability of colleagues before you try to contact them. Is their little green light on? Are they yellow because they're not actually at their desk? Are they in a meeting? Should I be disturbing them? Being able to instant message people. And we've had that within the Northern Trust using Skype for Business. However, the advantage of Microsoft Teams is I can contact the other project managers within TEP, who are all in different organizations, easily. I can make sure all of them have the information or the question usually at the same time. It's one place to collaborate and discuss, whether that's internally or externally. It's easy to keep everyone up to date with what is happening without trawling through lots of emails, trying to find pieces of information, which is the latest email with the latest update on a piece of information. And as I was saying earlier, it's reduced the number of emails. And I think that's just great. There's the option to pin important information in a chat or important channels so that they're easily accessible. You've got the option to turn notifications on and off depending on which ones you want to be alerted by. Some of the teams have started using a channel for onboarding new staff. So all their policies and procedures, their handbooks, informational posts are in there, key contacts are in there, nice and easy for new starts to find. We've also been looking at business continuity, and if, hopefully not, something similar to what happened in the south of Ireland happens and they lose access to their network and their computers, how can Microsoft Teams support the ongoing work within the trust? and ongoing communication across different teams until we can get things sorted. Finally, I suppose the other benefits are around the apps and the dashboards and easily being able to view what is happening within your team. Where are there gaps? What are the requests for new work coming in or new caseloads coming in, and who has capacity to take those on? And those are the things that we've been finding as benefits across the trust. And as I was saying at the beginning, we're only at the start of the journey. We have about 20 team areas set up at the minute, and I was kindly informed there's over 300 teams within the trust. So I have a long way to go yet, and hopefully we'll learn more as we go on. Okay, Mary.
Thank you, Susan. It's great to hear the work you're doing there in Northern, and I think all organisations will have followed in to some extent as well. In terms of getting people started, we'll provide the details here on some training, and I know Claire has other training resources that would be very useful as well. So for Microsoft Teams Enterprise Skills Initiatives, there are a lot of training there on Microsoft site. There's also links of the Adoption Hub, which is the link down the left-hand side of your Microsoft Teams screen. And there's Microsoft Teams short sessions running around all the organisations at the minute and over the coming months. So do look out for those and make a point of joining those where you can. I know people have returned to them to pick up more tips as they've got more familiar with the teams. So we'd encourage everyone to get started and learn as you go. And we provide local contacts now as well that you can reach out to in your organisations. This is part of the wider DWP programme, Digital Workplace programme that Claire referred to at the start. But following on from the enablement part that we've done, getting the 365 on the desktops, there will be a business change work stream coming along as part of the wider Digital Workplace programme that will help with the adoption of all things digital. So hopefully this is the groundwork done or ongoing, and I'll just share the local contacts here who you can reach out to. I'll be more than happy to help you. So with our global admins, Adrian and Brian, based in BSO, myself as well. But in the trust then, we've got Susan in Northern, Keith in Southeastern, John in Southern, David in NIAS, and Emmett in the Western Trust. So they would be more than happy to hear from any of you and happy to help. And thanks very much for joining us. So we'll do our best to answer any questions we get now.
That's good. Thank you very much, folks. We can kick off some conversation. I put a bit of a prompter in there. Susan has told us how they're using Teams in Northern Trust. We have been quite early adopters in our team. We are all very enthusiastic. I love the fact that you can press the wee telephone at the top of the thing and do a video call very quickly. I can't say that my nursing and AHP colleagues have been in that I work with centrally have been early adopters. I had to drag them kicking and screaming from Zoom because it had taken them months and months to learn how to use that. And I said, no, come on, you have to bite the bullet. And I tried to I got them on over to Teams. And now the fact that you can share documents and you can do all of those extra little bits, now they're all, and they've actually, I actually hear them at meetings now, oh, we could set up a Teams on that, or we could share and do that together on Teams. And that is just like a complete light bulb moment for them. So definitely that whole using it as a collaboration tool is definitely the next step. I think the communication thing, most people are probably getting to grips with that now, Susan, but I think the sophistication of how you can use it for collaboration and doing things together is definitely where we want to go, and definitely sort of strategically aligned in how do we make people more efficient and effective. And I think you're right. It's good to see, although sometimes I ignore it when somebody has a little red dot. I'm afraid I ping them a message anyway. Just, isn't that right, Mark? Mark sometimes has, or Damien there, who are on my team, sometimes have a little red dot, and we would still message them anyway, hoping that they're just on an ordinary call and they can still answer you. But it is, because if you think about everything else in our lives, everything else that we do outside of work is instant, isn't it? You know, you text people, or you WhatsApp people, or you do things online, and it's all very instant. So having that functionality to communicate instantly with people, and, as you say, add people into the conversation, and, you know, send the same message to a number of people instantly has been really a real game changer. So one of the things I put into the chat there to try, and there's Mark's got his hand up, was it would be really good to hear about how your experiences in whatever organization or team you're coming from today, about how you're getting started and how you're using Teams, and any good hints or tips, and of course any challenges that you're having, because these are the right people to be asking about the challenges, and where they could, how your trust person could direct you to some advice. So Mark, you have your hand up there.
Yeah, I suppose maybe just we step above what I know Mary has done a lot of work, and the guys done a lot of work on this, and probably hasn't really sort of nobody really likes blowing their own trumpet, but it's I think when TEP was established, we had a lot of problems to get rectified. So we had across our HSC estate a lot of Windows 7 devices. Microsoft had a process to keep those secure and keep those updated, but it was a significant amount of money, and we were under significant pressure to get Windows 10 laptops and procurement. So there was a lot of stuff around the license agreement that went in with Microsoft, the negotiation of that contract, the procurement to buy the devices. So there was a lot of stuff happened, which I know Mary sort of outlined really around what TEP has done, but there's steps above it that these people also on this call and the trust were also involved, and obviously then get those devices out. So probably from a regional view of around how this has worked from the ITS, BSO, ourselves, and the trust as well, and move this forward relatively quickly. I think the only issue, obviously, that we talked about this digital workplace, there's been a void there really around some of the things that we will want to carry on the sort of foundations, really good foundations that TEP's put in place. And I suppose just we've been, from the regional view, we've been meeting the trusts and major programs really around ensuring that what digital workplace will include will cover what it does need to include. It sounds very simple, but that's where we are at the moment. And I suppose one of the big areas that we all are aware of is obviously our digital skills and capability, which any of the new technology, there's no point buying very shiny, really good functionality if we can't all make use of it. So yeah, that was sort of around my point. I suppose probably some of the questions would be really around the next steps and how as we move forward. I know Mary's been working, we're going to start working on Microsoft quite soon to look at the renewal of enterprise agreement. And I know Belfast Trust are slightly ahead, and that's where we're trying to get to. And our Department of Health colleagues have also sort of joined the Office 365 journey as well. So how we all work as a system is obviously going to be very important, and the benefits that the technology will hopefully bring to enable that.
Yeah, I agree, Mark. It's yeah. You made it sound too simple, guys. You made it sound as if somebody just flicked a switch one day and it all worked. I know the blood, sweat, and tears that went into, but what went into before the switch could be flicked with changing all the devices. So all power to everybody who was involved in all of those earlier steps. Any other comments about how people are getting on with either with regards to what they want to do next, or what they find the benefits, such as what Susan has talked about? Or anybody using it for anything different to what Susan talked about?
I suppose, Claire, one of the things that we have seen working probably with the COVID response, and everybody probably has some similar things, was the ability to communicate with third parties relatively easily, you know what I mean? Well, and and even at the moment, obviously with Belfast and we do have that functionality. I think,
Yeah,
I don't very rarely phone people anymore.
Yeah.
My first point of contact is like I know they're there and they know they can't ignore me because I can see them on Teams.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you into a secret. For those of you who don't know, the DHCNI team are, well, we've been evicted from where our desks used to be, into a new space, and we're trying to get our new desks and things organised. And Richard McVeigh and I had a great discussion the other day. Nobody's going to get a telephone on their desk anymore, so we'll definitely be all converts. He's decided he doesn't think anybody needs a phone anymore, because this is the way that we'll be communicating. So that'll keep our desks. Not only will we have less emails, Susan, but our desks will be nice and tidy as well, because we won't have the wires of a telephone. Anybody else with any comments?
Claire, Damien here. I've heard good news coming out of Belfast. I presume Susan and our colleagues are sort of plugged into that. I believe that Teams in Belfast has exploded way beyond what they initially understood it was likely to be.
Yeah, so we've been keeping in contact with Belfast Trust, and we've done a lot of lessons learned with them, to make sure that we can deploy it in a way that brings the staff with us. And also ensure that everything is secure. So we've been doing that. And also the guy from Microsoft that is working with us, Henrik, he also worked with Belfast Trust, so he has a lot of learning in there as well, and lots of ideas, and understands where we're all coming from, which is great. So yeah, we have been getting a lot from them as well.
Pardon me, Claire, earlier in the year, I had a conversation with one of the emergency planners and the PHA, Mary. Forgive me, I can't remember Mary's surname, but she was actually able to touch base with colleagues in Scotland who had used Teams as a multi-agency platform. And they had it actually up and going whenever COP21 was up and going in Glasgow this time last year. And that multi-agency piece of work piqued my interest, because so much of health is multi-agency, never mind emergency planning, but even dealing with education and, probation service, PSNI, etc. So it'd be great to be able to see us fully exploit the tools with our partners. Yeah,
and it's great to hear that DOH are getting on board now as well, because that's really our missing bit. We can't Teams with them at this moment in time, so it's really good that they're getting on board. And actually, I was on a call with the transformation director the other day, who are Department of Finance, and of course our call was on WebEx. But now they're moving across, so the next calls are all going to be Teams. And the girl who was on the call who was leading the call was telling everybody that was present, about how we were going to move over, and was singing the praises of Microsoft Teams and what the forum, because it's a cross departmental forum, so education, justice, Department of Community, etc. So it'll just make life so much easier that everybody's on the one platform. So again, for both communication and collaboration, so that's great. If there's no more questions or comments, Susan has left up your local contacts on the screen there, and of course the presentation as well as the slides will be available after the call today. So if people have got a question or want to get some direction about how they can get their access to any more training on Teams for their staff or for their whole team, contact your local person and see where you can be signposted to. I also put the link into the chat of the NHS digital skills online learning, and there's numerous resources of content on that e-learning on Microsoft Teams, which could also be a starting point. It's probably quite basic, but if your team is just getting started, it may suffice at this stage. So if there's no further questions on behalf of DHCNI and Digital Dispatches, I want to thank Mary, Adrian and Susan for their time, and of course to all of you for giving up your lunchtime on a Friday, and go forth and communicate and collaborate. And if I don't see any of you again before, oh well, we won't have another digital dispatches. So take care, everybody, and have a nice break when Christmas does come. All joking apart that it is only the 2nd of December, but everybody's had a rough old year, so everybody deserves a few days off over Christmas. And we'll see you all again in January for our next year of digital dispatches. So thank you very much, everybody, and good afternoon.